Mayor, the meeting is now being recorded.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome to the June 2024, 6 p.m. regular joint meeting of the Bell Garden City Council and Successor Agency to the Community Development Commission. The meeting will now come to order at 6:05. Members of the public may view and listen to the meeting live online through the city's website as noted on the agenda. If any of the members should have a conflict of interest, please announce any item you are recusing from due to a conflict of interest prior to the item being heard. Tonight's invocation will be given by Minister Daniel Anguiano, and the Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Chief Camacho. Thank you. City Clerk, please call roll of the members of the City Council and Successor Agency.
Yes, I'll do so after our invocation. Thank you.
Sorry about that.
Good evening, everyone. Let us bow our heads as we come before God. Heavenly Father, we come before you in this evening to thank you for your goodness and your mercy. I present before you every member in this body and the leaders of this great country. We honor you as the highest authority in this night. It is you who appoints leaders, and it is our responsibility to pray for them. Wisdom is yours. I pray that your hand guide us in all matters presented in this evening. We thank you in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Now, City Clerk, please call roll of the members of the City Council and Successor Agency. Oh,
Sorry,
good
I will
Lord,
do-
I am in such a hurry tonight. I am in such a hurry tonight. My apologies. Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, now we can do the roll call, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Member of the Council and Successor Agency Chavez.
Present.
Councilmember Pulido has been granted a temporary medical related leave of absence. Councilmember Sanchez
Present.
and Mayor Pro Tem Barcena.
Present.
Mayor Gomez.
Present.
Thank you.
We will now move to the presentations. City Manager, please introduce the presentations.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Gomez. The month of July has been designated and declared as Parks Make Life Better Month. And before I turn it over to Mayor Pro Tem Barcena, I'd just like to recognize our director, Liz Nava, our coordinators, our rec leaders that are all here in person with us today. It's nice to see everybody here. I will now turn it over to Mayor Pro Tem Barcena. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager and Mayor, for giving me the opportunity to present this proclamation. And here, I want to show it to the camera and to all of our participants today. This is a proclamation in honor of recreation. And it goes like this. A proclamation in honor of Parks Make Life Better Month. Whereas Parks and Recreation promotes physical, emotional, and mental health and wellness through organized and self-directed fitness, play, and activities. And whereas Parks and Recreation supports the economic vitality of communities by partnering with local businesses and nonprofits and offering events for residents' engagement. And whereas Parks and Recreation creates memorable experiences through youth sports and enrichment activities, teen centers and programs, senior activity centers, adult fitness and enrichment programs, free community events, and beyond. And whereas Parks and Recreation fosters social cohesiveness in communities by celebrating diversity, providing spaces to come together peacefully, modeling compassion, promoting social equity, connecting social networks, and ensuring all people have access to its benefits. And whereas Parks and Recreation supports human development and endless learning opportunities that foster social, intellectual, physical, and emotional growth in people of all ages and abilities. And whereas Parks and Recreation strengthens community identity by providing facilities and services that reflect and celebrate community character, heritage, culture, history, aesthetics, and landscape. And whereas Parks and Recreation facilitates community problem and issue resolution by providing safe spaces to come together peacefully and serving as key points of service, helping our communities heal both physically and emotionally, and whereas Parks and Recreation supports safe, vibrant, attractive, progressive communities that make life better through positive alternatives offered in the recreational opportunities. And whereas Parks and Recreation remains versatile and innovative in providing vital services to communities through local, national, or global emergencies, all while adhering to guidelines set forth by governing agencies. And whereas the California Parks and Recreation Society has released a statewide public awareness campaign, Parks Make Life Better, to inform citizens of the many benefits of utilizing parks, facilities, programs, and services. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Gabriela Gomez, Mayor of the City of Bell Gardens, with the City Council, do hereby proclaim the month of July as Parks Make Life Better Month in Bell Gardens, and recognize the importance of access to local parks, trails, open space, and facilities for the health, wellness, development, inspiration, and safety of all Californians. Proclaimed this 24th day of June 2024, signed by our Mayor, Gabriela Gomez, and also hopefully approved by all of the council of the City of Bell Gardens.
Thank you. Do we have any council member comments before we take a picture?
I just want to thank each and every one of you guys, whether you're part-time, full-time, you've been here a couple months, you've been here a few years. I think I've gotten the pleasure to work with many of you guys at different events that you guys host. I'm always in awe of like the decorations. I always ask Liz, like, did we hire people? They're like, nope, that's our staff. And so as a former rec leader myself, it being one of my first jobs, I know what it takes to put on wonderful programs for our community. So thank each and every one of you for everything that you do, and thank you, Liz.
Anyone else? Go ahead.
Yes, I just want to thank the director for, first of all, I'm not sure if you wrote this, but that was awesome. I know it was kind of long, but I think it really, it just makes me sort of meditate on all of the positive things that the Recreation and Community Services Department is involved in. And I can say this not only because I was in your shoes at one point as a recreation leader, probably a lifelong recreation leader if I had to put it in that perspective, but also because, you know, as we've been through a pandemic and even before that, your department is responsible for covering so many needs that are essential for our residents. When we have emergencies, such as a pandemic, you guys were in the front line, you know, providing meals and helping deliver the materials or the supplies needed to keep everyone safe. And I think that you guys should really be aware that the department that you're part of and the role that you play in this city is absolutely essential and super important. And I hope that you're proud of what you do, because without you guys, I wouldn't want to be in Bell Gardens. So I'll just put it that way. Please keep doing what you're doing. Keep following your passion. I see a lot of familiar faces. I know that you guys are going to school to do amazing things. I know that some of you already have your degrees. And just keep going, because we really need you to stay in this space of public service. And I hope that you know that you are appreciated and valued here in the City of Bell Gardens. So thank you for everything that you do.
Go ahead.
Thank you so much for all the incredible work that you do. You all are amazing, literally. You make our city shine. You represent Bell Gardens really well. To an extent, you know, we are here on the council. We put forward a lot of different events, a lot of different projects, and many of those times, whether that be the concerts, the food distributions, the you name it, you know, the even helping out our other community development department when we have the rent stabilization, everything from setting up the chairs, setting up the tables, the arts and crafts, you name it, you guys are always there. So I really appreciate all the work that you do. Thank you to all of our full-timers as well that have been with our city for you know, many years, and all of you who I hope to continually serve our community. I like to take the privilege to, at all events, I try to go up to every single one of you and just thank you for what you do. Thank you for what you do. And I just really appreciate it because I see a lot of myself within all of you. You are all motivators for me to continue representing the city really well. And I'm so thankful for all the work that you do to make our city shine. So thank you again. We really appreciate it. And thank you to Liz for the leadership. Thanks.
So in our communities, you know, people are on a budget, right? Not just in our community, but in a lot of communities, people are on budgets, families are on budgets. You know, what does it cost to take your whole family to Disneyland these days? What does it cost to take your whole family to the movies these days, right? I think that having these types of, all the different types of events that we have within the city, for people to come out and to enjoy themselves with their families for free, like that's not possible without you guys. It's not possible for families in an urban city, in an urban environment, the way that we live here. You know, you know, we're thankful that we have our parks, you know, but those are the open spaces where families can come out and be together and enjoy each other as a community. And it's for free. And for a lot of families, that's really the only outing that they have, is being able to go to the parks and being able to take advantage of the services that are provided by the city, whether it's a carnival, whether it's, you know, movies, whether it's, you know, free concert. You know, all of those things matter, and that's what makes this place a great place to live. So thank you to you guys, because you guys make it happen for the community. And you guys are the community, and we're all the community. You make it happen for us, so thank you. Thank you for what you do. And now let's take a picture. Okay, so we're ready to move forward? Okay, what is the next presentation?
Mayor, it's public participation. Oh, I apologize. Thank you, Mayor. I apologize. Next is proclamation in honor of Juneteenth Day of Observance for the City of Bell Gardens. I'll turn it over to Councilmember Sanchez. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. A proclamation in honor of Juneteenth Day of Observance. Whereas Juneteenth is the oldest known celebration commemorating freedom from slavery in the United States, and whereas on June 19th, 1865, more than 2 years after President Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, word finally reached Texas that slaves were free. And whereas on June 18th, 2021, President Joe Biden proclaimed Juneteenth as the 12th federal holiday to be observed on June 19th. And whereas on Juneteenth, we commit ourselves to the work of equity, equality, and justice, and commit together to erase systematic racism that still undermines our founding ideas and collective prosperity. Whereas Juneteenth is an observance celebrated with traditions handed down through many generations, including family gatherings and picnics, music, stories told by elders and local historians, speeches, and recognitions of individuals who have made significant achievements and contributions to the community. And whereas it is a time for reflection and rejoicing, a time for assessment, self-improvement, and for planning for the future. And whereas, let's join together in celebration of freedom, family, and community by embodying a spirit of peace, respect, brotherly love, and honor, and saluting our city's rich culture and legacy and diversity. Now, therefore, it be resolved that Gabriela Gomez, Mayor of the City of Bell Gardens, with the City Council, do hereby proclaim June 19th annually, thereafter Juneteenth Day, in the City of Bell Gardens, and urge all citizens to reflect and celebrate this very important date on our national's history and commit to rededicating ourselves to the ongoing work guaranteeing liberty and equal rights to all Americans. Proclaimed this 24th day of June and signed by our Mayor, Gabriela Gomez.
Thank you. Does anyone have any comments? Okay. Thank you so much. We will now move to public participation for items not listed on the agenda. Public participation is now open. City Clerk, please announce the instructions for public participation.
Thank you. Members of the public will now have an opportunity to speak on items not listed on the agenda. Please state your name for the record before addressing your comments. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes, subject to an overall 30-minute period unless announced otherwise. Callers wishing to make a comment may do so at this time by dialing *9 from your phone, and when instructed, dial *6 to unmute yourself. Individuals joining us through Zoom may request to make a comment by using the raise hand feature and select the unmute or the microphone icon when instructed. We will first hear from speakers that are in person, and we did not receive any written communications.
Thank you. First speaker, Bruce Crow.
Boy, I got through all the progressive socialist tripe coming out of the AI machine. Wish you could be a little more genuine in your reading of certain materials. It'd be nice to hear some real genuine comments instead of computer generated stuff going on. I mean, why are you here? Coming from Downey, I just want to say that we had a good turnaround in a situation where the residents have rose up and fought back and are getting respected a little bit now, unlike the City of Bell Gardens. Of course, the prime example was the pot shops that you guys did not show any respect to your residents whatsoever. But Downey has removed the demonic, godless, gay flag as being flown in the month of June. It is nothing but a flag and a representative symbol of an extremist Democrat Party death cult. That's what it is. You're doing nothing for kids. You're not protecting them by flying that flag. You're leading them on a straight path to suicide. You're dumbing them down. You're confusing them. And then telling them they can change from a boy to a girl. You're cutting off their penises and their breasts and telling them you are now a boy or a girl. And they will never, ever be able to reproduce or fall in love or have a relationship and continue the human species. This leads straight to death, and that's why most of those kids that you get early or try to get early commit suicide. It's not because there's people out here rounding them up and throwing them off of 4-story buildings like they do over in Gaza for the Hamas supporters, which all of you are, by supporting the ceasefire and complaining that 40,000 people have died in Gaza. Well, it's proportional. Why is 40,000 people as important as 35 million death shots called vaccines that you approve of, even in your parks? 35 million and counting. The vaccines have killed 35 million. And you won't address the 80 million that have already been demolished from their own countries that have died of starvation and lack of jobs and lack of fossil fuels. But that's not important to you because you want a grandstand, just like you did with the picture of all the park employees here. It's election season. You're not fooling anybody.
Rogelio Rodríguez.
Buenas noches, Rogelio Rodríguez. Como dijo el señor, yo no estoy mucho de acuerdo con eso, aunque no estoy contra de eso que hicieron. No estoy en contra, pero tampoco creo que sea favorable, porque están usando el dinero, sus impuestos, para hacer propaganda. Posiblemente pronto vamos a tener la bandera del Ku Klux Klan afuera y todo va a ser permitido, de acuerdo con ustedes. También ahorita están anunciando ustedes que no cohetes en la ciudad. Si usted pone algo así y ejerzan el poder de hacerlo, no nomás de anunciarlo, porque en Christmas del año pasado había más cohetes en las calles y traen de otra ciudad. Pues ¿por qué no permiten mejor que se vendan los cohetes aquí y agarren algo de dinero y no que vengan de por fuera a tronarlos aquí? Y no son cohetes, parecen bombas. Y un terciricanzo, ¿dónde están ustedes? Ningún lugar. También están anunciando lo de las bicicletas. Espero que hagan cierta separación, porque en la forma que tienen ustedes las separaciones de los carros y las bicicletas, está mucho más peligroso que lo pongan de esa manera. ¿Por qué? Porque no le dan nada de tolerancia a la bicicleta para que corra el carro. Entonces vamos a tener más accidentes que los que tenemos actualmente y va a ser culpa de ustedes. Luego también le dando mucha propaganda que le están haciendo a nuestra ciudad. Cuando entramos a nuestra ciudad queremos ver algo bonito, algo verde. ¿Y qué es lo que estamos mirando? Parece un desierto. Supuestamente no tenemos crisis de agua ahorita. Todas las áreas están secas. Échenle, vayan a orinar cada uno, túrnese, vaya a orine allí, para cuando menos esa área se ponga verde. Lo otro, se hizo un monumento para los no rezoning committee en Fort Park. Vayan, ¿por qué no quitan todo el monumento mejor? Pueden quitar la placa y lo dejaron ahí como si nada. Lo mismo hicieron en Julius Park, lo mismo hicieron aquí en de los patines. ¿Dónde está el respeto que le están brindando a esas personas que anteriormente lucharon por un bienestar común para nuestra comunidad? Ustedes ese nombre que esto y el otro. Verdaderamente no creo que ustedes no han hecho nada, ni siquiera van a ver lo que tienen en su ciudad. No nos representa en realidad. Yo ahorita ando caminando, y posiblemente saben por qué. Ando caminando y le pregunto a la gente, ¿qué bonito miras de Bell Gardens? Absolutamente nada. Nada. Porque inclusive el Fort Park está completamente destruido. ¿Qué es lo que está pasando a ustedes? ¿Y así van a querer reelegirse? Espero que no. Gracias.
Do we have any more? If there is no objection by the members, I will close public participation. City Manager, will you please give your report?
Yes, thanks again, Mayor Gomez.
No, I'm sorry for
I'm sorry.
interrupting.
Ooh.
We need to do the
I'm
agenda.
telling you, I am way ahead of myself. This is for the agenda items, okay. Okay. If there is no objection by the members of the City Council Successor Agency, I will close public participation for non-agenda items. Public participation is now open for items listed on the City Council Successor Agency Joint Agenda. City Clerk, please announce the instructions for public participation.
Thank you, Mayor. Members of the public will now have an opportunity to speak on items listed on the agenda. Please state your name for the record before addressing your comments. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. Callers wishing to make a comment may do so at this time by dialing *9 from your phone, and when instructed, dial *6 to unmute yourself. Individuals joining us through Zoom may make a request to make a comment by using the raise hand feature and select the unmute or microphone icon when instructed. We will begin to hear from members of the public that are physically present in the chamber. We did not receive any written comments.
Okay, thank you. Bruce Crow?
All right. Number 10, save yourself some money. Don't bother with the solar shade structure. There is no climate change emergency. It's all a ruse, and it has been from the start. It doesn't work. We've already maxed out on our ability to use energy from the sun to change the photons into energy. We're almost at maximum capacity right now. We can only change about 45% of the sun's energy from photons, and we're at like 40. So there's no benefit to that. Number 9, renewal for shelter beds within the Salvation Army Bell Shelter. Well, something else has to be done. What you guys are doing now is not working. Gavin Newsom, your Democrat Party governor, has lost $27 billion. Nobody knows where it's gone for all the homeless stuff. Well, we know where it goes. It goes to his developer friends. That's where it goes. They're offering a place to stay in an apartment in a high-rise for $600,000 per apartment. So we can bring people in there and they could smoke their crack and watch porn and burn stuff up while they're in there. And we get to pay the tab for all that stuff. Now that really solves a lot of their problems, doesn't it? And number 8, the agreement between Bell Gardens and the impact, the environmental justice element. This is nothing but ESG stuff. Don't waste your time with this. Start turning around and save humanity. And stop being transhumanist with this nonsense of climate change. Over in Downey, we have a group called the Citizens Climate Lobby, or CCL, which should be changed to Climate Change Lunatics. They're full of lies. They have no data to back up anything that they purport. We've listened to your guy, Barack Obama, the biggest Marxist around. It's fundamentally changing America with your help, by the way, because that's what the globalist psychotic killers want. And you are offering nothing of life for us. So don't even bother and give us the stories that, oh, we're an impacted society, we're poor Latinos that get the smog thrown on us and stuff. You want to live in an American industrialized society, you vote for fossil fuels and protect our culture and our jobs. Thank you.
Denny Zane.
Council members, my name is Denny Zane. Once upon a time, I was a council member myself, so I understand the pleasures that you're experiencing here tonight, both the ones of great community import that you had earlier with that fantastic gathering of young people, and sometimes the kinds of scathing, I guess, input you also get. That's part of the democratic process, and I did it for 12 years, and I'm hoping all of you will do it for 12 years and serve your community well. I'm here to represent the Justice for Renters Act and urge you to endorse a resolution of support for this act. The Costa-Hawkins Act was adopted almost 30 years ago in California, and it provided, it forced cities to adopt certain elements into their local rent control laws. Now, at that time, there were about 12 cities with rent control laws. Now there are about 35, 36 that have rent control laws, all of them governed by Costa-Hawkins, which forced every city to include, in particular, vacancy decontrol into their rent control laws, allowing rents, of course, to go to market upon vacancy. Now, back in the earlier days, the increases upon vacancy weren't so sharp, and a crisis did not immediately ensue. But now we know that rents are skyrocketing throughout California. In fact, especially throughout Southern California. In my community, Santa Monica, where we had rent control since about 1979, since the Costa-Hawkins Act has been adopted, about 80% of the units have turned over, and the median rent for those units are about almost 3 times what it is for the units that have not turned over. What that means for the tenants who are in the long time, the 25-year or longer tenants, is that they are often under pressure from their property owner to try to get them to move out so that rents can be increased. What it means for other community members whose incomes are modest is that they could never possibly find a unit in the community that they could afford. Now, that's Santa Monica, which is a coastal city, and it gets a little bit, I guess, more exaggerated, but throughout Los Angeles, Los Angeles County, this has been occurring as well. In fact, the city of Los Angeles did a study of its own in the housing element and showed that about 1/3 of all of its affordable rent-controlled housing had gone to market under Costa-Hawkins, and that the median rents for those units were much more than double the median rents that they were prior to going to market. We are seeing really a dynamic which is almost a forced relocation of entire populations in our communities. Sometimes they go to other states, other parts of the region. Unfortunately, sometimes they're forced to be homeless on our street, and that's really unfortunate. This is a good way to help.
Thank you. If there's no objection by the members, I will close public participation. City Manager, will you please give your report?
Yes, thanks again, Mayor Gomez. Just want to mention a few things that have occurred since the last council meeting. Julia Asmus and Hannon Parks, the surface playground has all been redone. The playground equipment's done with new benches, paint, things of that nature. So just want to thank our Public Works Department, our Recreation Community Service Department for getting those parks up and running. The final piece to those parks being completed is the art. We're working with the artists. I think we made a lot of progress here in the last week or so. So we're moving as quick as possible on that. Also want to mention, and thanks to our Public Works Department and others for the compost and mulch giveaway. Gave away all the compost and mulch. The oil and filter exchange, it was over at the AutoZone. And last Thursday, we kicked off the first Summer Nights concerts. So those will be ongoing for the next 7 or 8 weeks. Also want to mention, coming up this Thursday, we have our first Summer Nights movie. It'll be Lilo and Stitch, 6 to 9 at Veterans Park. The following day, on Friday, June 28th, we've got our Bell Gardens Art and Yard Sale at 11 to 3:30. And we've got our, what I would say is our big skate jam I think last year was a success. This year, I think, is going to be an even bigger success. There's 3 different music acts, 3 different genres, and then all the skating that somebody can handle, plus some giveaways and things of that nature. That's from 6 to 9 p.m. This Friday at the skate park. Also coming up, July 3rd, 6 to 9 p.m. is our Independence Day celebration at Veterans Park. As a reminder, all fireworks are illegal in the city of Bell Gardens. We've got the billboards up on the 710. We usually do a joint billboard with the city of Bell Gardens. It's the same message. We've got on one of their billboards in the city of Bell and 2 billboards here in the city of Bell Gardens. Our Independence Day celebration doesn't have fireworks. We've got our laser light show. There's some new features to it this year. Every year we're trying to incorporate something new, whether that be sort of heatless pyrotechnics and some other electronic features will be available at the event this year as well. Always want to mention we've got a rent stabilization workshop for owners and tenants on the 16th, 17th. Also, our housing specialist has been out at some events passing out flyers to also inform tenants and or property owners of the rent stabilization ordinance that exists in the city of Bell Gardens. And then just want to make a final commentary on the consent items. You know, a lot of work goes into these consent items. Just want to mention the continuation of Salvation Army homeless shelter beds. So for about $38,000, the city, through a grant from Gateway COG, gets access to anywhere from 5 to 7 shelter beds. We keep those beds full as much as possible. Those are beds that go for 90 days, plus are extendable up to another 90 days. So these aren't just somewhere for somebody to stay overnight. This is really a place for somebody to get their life back in order. So they offer all the services there, from social services, benefits, a clean place to stay, job opportunities, things of that nature. So we're happy to continue with that agreement that we have with the City of Bell Salvation Army Shelter. Also want to mention there's a $10 million solar shade project that's at the Bicycle Hotel Casino. Because the city owns the land underneath the parking lot, the lease agreement requires that the Bicycle ask for approval before they start the process. So these would be shade structures, sturdy metal shade structures with solar panels over the top. They'll be coming to our planning department with all the plans to make sure that everything is approved, all the fees are paid, and ultimately I think this project for them is going to have a 7 or 8 year payback. Probably around the time the solar panels are starting to lose some of their efficiency, but the shade is valuable just for customers, especially with the summertime coming. So if you have a few choices of where you may go to take your gaming money, you may go to the Bicycle just simply because you're parking in the shade. So excited about that project. The consent agenda also includes $2.3 million for continued soil remediation at the former Burke Oil site. That's grant funded. We've also got street repair maintenance, and the final item that I'll mention on the consent is we've received a doubling of the amount of funding provided by the LA 84 Foundation. That was $10,000 last year, $20,000 this year, and it's used to pay for swimming lessons for residents of Bell Gardens. So we're doubling the amount of swim lessons. We may be able to cover all the swim lessons for the residents of Bell Gardens with the funding from this foundation. So that's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Get back to where I was. We will now move to the consent calendar. Does any member of the council successor agency wish to pull an item for separate discussion? I actually would like to pull item number 6. I have a couple of questions. And can I go ahead and just ask?
Do you want to make the motion to approve all items with the exception number 6?
Sure. So I'd like to make a motion to approve all the items except for item number 6. Do I have a second?
Second.
City Clerk, please take the roll.
Thank you. And I'm sorry, who motioned?
I motioned and Mayor Pro Tem seconded.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. Members of the council and successor agency, Chavez?
That'll be a yes with the exception of number 5. So for number 5, it'll be a no.
Okay. Councilmember Sanchez,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barcena,
Yes.
and Mayor Gomez.
Yes.
Motion carries.
You may proceed with item. Yes.
So, I did have a couple of questions on item number 6, and it's regarding a portion of the development agreement that indicates that a property owner would be liable for any outstanding debt that the operator who's leasing the property from them would have, right? My question is at what point is that agreement, does the owner come into that agreement? Is that before the development agreement comes to us? Is that after it comes to us? That's my first question about that.
Mayor, I'll go ahead and turn that question over to our Assistant City Attorney, Ms. Paloma McAvoy, who's with us today.
Good evening, City Council. This is Paloma McAvoy with the City Attorney's Office. The property owner comes into the development agreement. They're actually a signatory to the development agreement. So they arguably review the terms and sign the development agreement before it's executed and effective. If it's not signed by a property owner, and just to be clear, notarized signatures are required. If it's not signed by the property owner, then the development agreement is not effective.
Okay, so then I guess for clarification, once that development agreement has come to us at council, and assuming we approve it, then at that point, the property owner would sign the development agreement? Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
it needs to be, and excuse me, I'm suffering from some health issues this evening. The development agreement needs to be signed by the property owner, the operator, and in order for it to be effective, and it needs to be recorded with the property as well.
Okay, and my next question is, just from other information that I've gotten, I'm under the impression that this is not a standard practice in other cities where property owners are also held liable. Is this a standard practice?
I think it depends on what city you go to. One of the issues when you're signing with limited liability companies is that's exactly what they are. They have limited liability. So this actually provides, by including the property owner in the development agreement, it also provides an avenue by which the city is able to recoup its losses. If, say, for example, an operator is not paying its public benefits or abiding by other terms of the agreement, it allows the city another opportunity to be able to go after the property owner as well.
All right.
So one challenge I've seen in some cities, and I think this is what's kind of unique about Bell Gardens, because many cities enacted ordinances back in 2017 or 2018 for the most part, where, what we've seen is a lot of times operators don't always abide by the payment terms. They dissolve the LLC, and the monies that the city was hoping to be able to recoup, they oftentimes are not able to. So some cities do it and some cities don't. This was inserted in here to try to protect the city's interest into being able to collect that revenue.
Okay, and one of the reasons I ask is because, during the pandemic, a lot of businesses were struggling. It was a difficult time for everybody. There were a lot of grants and loans and things like that businesses were applying for to help them get through a difficult time, right? Through the pandemic that we were going through. And I guess my question is if the property owner is then also liable for any of this debt, or, you know, if we were to go through another situation like the pandemic where, you know, we have businesses to shut down, or any other situation that would create an emergency for businesses, I'm concerned about these businesses' ability to get the help that they need to stay in business, right? And mainly I'm concerned for the property owner, because, you know, all of these types of situations are out of the control of both the operator and the property owner, right? So that's mainly a concern that I have, is that, you know, from my understanding, if the city is to a certain extent a lien holder on this property, then how does that affect a business's ability to apply for a loan or to get a loan for a situation like that? So that's mainly my main concern, and I was just wondering at what point a property owner is made aware that they would be liable for this. So is it after we approve the development agreement or before, right?
That's really up to the operator. I will tell you that when applicants submit an application, and it doesn't matter what application it's for any project, whether it's cannabis, housing, a commercial property, an applicant needs to submit a notice of acknowledgement from the applicant, noticing, saying, yes, I am aware that this applicant is proposing to use this property in this manner, and I consent to that. There's some other language in there as well about how the property will be used, and allowing city staff to enter onto the property at any time. One other thing that might be useful, while cannabis was not necessarily something that was granted the same kind of PPP protections in COVID as other businesses were, one thing that was kind of unique about cannabis is that that was under state law continued to be an essential industry. So even though restaurants closed, retail shops closed, and a lot of other commercial businesses we knew closed down, cannabis was actually one of the few necessary industries. As well, commercial and residential construction were two other industries that were never closed down. So even though some of the financial federal assistance was not available, there were some state mechanisms that allowed those businesses to continue operate or to continue construction so that they could be developed during that time.
Okay, and I understand your point that a business owner, a property owner, there has to be some consent, right, for the type of business that's going to be there. But there's a big difference between consenting to that type of business and being liable for that business's failure to pay, right? So that's just my main concern. We'll see. I guess it's up to the property owner to decide if they want to sign off on this. So that was all I had. Any other questions? Any questions from anyone else? Okay, thank you.
We'll need a motion now as to approval of item number 6.
All right, so can I have a motion to approve item number 6?
I'll move.
I'll second. Can we get a roll call vote, please?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Members of the council and successor agency, Chavez.
That'll be a no.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barcena.
Yes.
And Mayor Gomez.
Yes.
Motion carries.
City Manager, will you please announce discussion item number 15?
Yes, thanks again, Mayor Gomez. This item is the regular local commissions appointment list that we have on the agenda. It's staff's recommendation that the council review the commission's appointment list. By motion, remove commissioners and or make appointments to the posted vacancies. Thank you, Mayor.
Does any member of the council have any changes? Okay, seeing none, we will move forward. City Manager, please announce discussion item number 16.
Thanks again, Mayor Gomez. This item is for Senate Bill 1216, transportation projects regarding Class 3 bikeways and certain prohibitions that don't currently exist. So we've got a presentation for this item here. I'll cue it up while it's coming. Okay, it's here. It's coming back. There it is. Should my clicker be working yet? Has an on button. Thank you, Steve. So this, just for some background here, this is a Senate bill that has already gone through the Senate. It was approved by the Senate. Kind of as background, we've got some statements here that California's made an effort to enhance cycling infrastructure. This city council has also done the same. We've talked previously about bicycling within the city of Bell Gardens, accessibility to safe bike lanes in the city of Bell Gardens. We've recently had an upgraded bicycle event with some training from the police department. We've talked about sharrows. We have an item on here tonight requesting approval to commit to improving some existing sharrows. While we're doing that also, though, we want to make sure the council knows there is this Senate Bill 1216, and essentially there are two things that this Senate bill would prohibit. We'll start with the one that is most, I think, impactful for the city of Bell Gardens. And if this does pass ultimately, and it is passed by the Senate, so already the state Senate, on or after this coming January, basically we would be prohibited from installing or restriping a sharrow if the speed limit posted is greater than 30 miles per hour. So if you have a speed with a speed limit of 35 miles per hour, 40, 45, this law would not allow us with any funding to paint sharrows or to restripe sharrows that are already existing. The second feature of it is if you can still do it for streets that are at 30 miles per hour or less. So if you have a street that's 20 miles per hour, 25, or 30, you still can. The reason this is so impactful in the city of Bell Gardens is all 200 and some sharrows within the city of Bell Gardens are on streets that happen to be over 30 miles per hour for a number of reasons. So if this law passes, we would have the sharrows that are currently existing. We just wouldn't be able to restripe them or install any new ones. The second piece of it is, well, the second one is further restrictive. So the first one is for any kind of funding, even if it's general fund, you just cannot improve them if they're over 30 miles per hour. The second piece is even further restrictive, which is less impactful to us because we wouldn't anticipate using this active transportation program funding. But if a city were to use those funding to do sharrows after January 1 of 26, and I believe the reason they're pushing that off a year is because there may be some cities that already have projects that have been approved and are in place, it would not be permitted for streets that are over 25 miles per hour. So if a city somewhere in the state of California wants to paint sharrows on a 30 mile per hour street, they'd have to use non-ATP funding. If a city wanted to use ATP funding for bike sharrows, it would have to be on a street that's 25 miles per hour or less. So less impactful to the city of Bell Gardens. Some of this I think I've said here already. So we have 243. We've got a project that's coming before you. It's the next item on this agenda for 243 sharrows. The map's kind of small, but it shows the green. You can kind of see where the flow is. You see Gage, Eastern, Garfield, Florence Place is where our sharrows are currently located. If it passes, we wouldn't be able to maintain sharrows after January 1, 2005. And we do mention, though, also that the sharrows are expected to last 6 to 8 years. So with the type of materials that are being used. So if a city were to paint new sharrows in the next 60 days or so, even though this law will probably go into effect January 1, 2025, we wouldn't be able to maintain them after that, but most likely we would get somewhere in the 6 to 8 year range use out of those sharrows, and things can change in that 6 to 8 year period of time there. The ATP funding portion of it, we don't propose to use ATP funding and haven't used it in the city of Bell Gardens, so that would be further restricted, but it's not something that we would see as an impact. The Senate bill was passed by the Senate May 21st, referred to the Assembly Transportation Committee. We're tracking the status of the bill, and I'll kind of prelude into our Public Works Director's presentation for sharrows. Staff's recommendation here is either to receive and file while staff tracks the bill, or direct us to prepare a council resolution to support or oppose Senate Bill 1216. I suppose realistically from a staff perspective, probably recommendation 1 is a stronger recommendation. This bill is most likely going to pass. It has a lot of support from bicycle associations, from a perceived safety perspective. Staff's recommendation that you'll see on the next item that's coming forth would be to still go ahead with the project that we've already had going, which would be to paint new sharrows. But it's the council's option, and I'll conclude here with the recommendation of either 1, 2, or if there's some other action that the council would like to take, staff would be happy to proceed in that manner as well. So happy to answer any questions. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council.
Does anyone have any comments or questions?
Yeah, I have a question. I just want to know, how are we able to justify the funds that we're spending, seeing that Senate Bill 1216, if passed, will prohibit us, like you said, from maintaining the sharrows, potentially like this investment? How are we moving forward going to be able to sustain? I know you said it lasts about 6 years, but in the long term, like, how are we going to be able to sustain that, especially because the majority of these sharrows, correct me if I'm wrong, are on streets that prohibit the speed limit?
Yes, Councilmember. So all 243 happen to be 35 mile per hour. So, the anticipation again here would be with the quality of the materials that we're using is from a staff perspective, why we don't see the funding being a waste per se is we currently have sharrows there in those locations there. This is really an enhancement. We've cobbled together funding from various sources to do this project, not including ATP funding. And again, really, it's the time frame of the quality of the materials that we're using. I think if it was in the 24 to 36 month range, it would maybe be a staff recommendation might be skewed on this next item that's coming before you a little bit differently because of that time frame. But in this case, because of the 6 to 8 year time frame, we think that it still makes sense with the funding that we've put together.
Anyone else?
And then currently, as the sharrows are, I know you're a cyclist, so maybe you can help me understand this. So right now, I know they're kind of dull. You can't really see them. Is this going to really enhance the infrastructure of the cyclists within our city? And if so, how's that going to make it an improvement?
So thanks for those questions, because yes, and why is it important for us to make this investment, even though this law is coming up in January? And I believe that the reason why it's important is because, yes, it is going to look more like that, what's on the screen, where it's going to be highlighted, which visibly for drivers don't see it right now. Cyclists don't even see it right now, right? They don't pay attention to it because it doesn't stand out to them. And the importance of that is that if they can see it and they see that there's a space for them, then with some education and some support from, for example, our friends at Sela Bicycle Center, doing educational rides and putting out educational materials, showing people how to effectively ride on the street if we have a space for them there. And this is just the beginning. As one of our commenters was saying earlier, we are moving towards a transportation mode where we want more people to get out of their cars as much as they can to drive locally because of the congestion that we have here. So to the extent that people can get out of their cars and drive to the market, ride to the supermarket, ride to the restaurant, ride to wherever they need to locally, that helps to reduce traffic. But also, we need, this is just the beginning. The sharrows are not the be all end all. I would prefer to see dedicated bike lanes, dedicated, bikeways, maybe not necessarily on the streets where they exist now, but I think that, showing people that there is a place for bicycles, on the street within the flow of traffic as the law allows, right? I think it's an important thing for people to see. So 6 to 8 years from now, you know, there's a lot of activism going on, and hopefully, you know, I know we don't do ATP funds, but, you know, I'm hoping that we will, because some of those ATP funds will help us with getting better mobility infrastructure, better micro-mobility infrastructure that hopefully will make it safer for people. Because right now I'm seeing people riding wild, you know. They ride against traffic, they ride against traffic on the sidewalk, they ride on the sidewalks. They're not supposed to be riding on the sidewalks. We have the CARB e-bike program that is now, you know, the incentive program to help people of low income to get e-bikes, to get them out of their car. A lot of people can't afford insurance. They can't afford to have a car. So this is another alternative for them. My main concern has always been, and I've been sounding this alarm from the beginning since I started working on this project, is yes, by all means, let's put them on bikes, but you know what? Let's give them the infrastructure for people to be able to move about safely. So for me, having the Sharrows is just the start. We need to start getting people into the mentality of, yes, this is a bike-friendly city, and we want a better bike infrastructure after this, right? So that's my impassioned plea for that.
You brought up, you know, the safety concern, which, you know, I'm concerned about as well, seeing that the Senate bill, you know, is really talking about the speed limit where these cars are driving. And so do you think that us repainting these Sharrows is going to be safer for the cyclists to be riding alongside of a car going 30 miles per hour, 40 miles per hour?
So, I mean, I've ridden on some of these streets myself, and really what impacts safety the most is the density of traffic, right? That's the most impactful. But also I think it's the fact that people really just don't know how to ride, how to share the road. Drivers don't understand how to share the road with cyclists and vice versa. I think that having these on there will at least increase the visibility, right? And if we can keep pushing that message out that, yes, bicycles may use the full lane. The law requires that you switch lanes to pass them. It's share the road, not share the lane, right? We have a lot more work to do. The Sharrows by themselves are not going to cure the problem of traffic safety, right? There's a lot more that needs to be included with that, but we can't do it without it.
Thank you so much, City Manager. I love the discussion we're having. I think I'm glad to see that, you know, we have a Senate bill presented before us, and it's exciting to see that we're having this discussion in regards to the future impacts that it'll have in our city. I think this is a clear opportunity where we start to weigh in on our supporters, on our organizations that we've been a part of, whether that be the League of California Cities, contract cities, and start making those calls to our local representatives and ensuring that our voice is heard at the Capitol. It seems great, the bill on the surface. It's a great intent bill. I'm pretty sure cities on the surface, I mean, we are all for public safety, we're all for bike safety, really. And I think it's heading in the right direction, but it has some unintended consequences that will impact cities like ours, like our neighboring cities in Bell, in Cudahy, in Maywood, Huntington Park, because the lack of infrastructure that we have, or that we don't have, I should say, in our cities, right? There's a reason why we don't have Lime scooters, Bird scooters across our cities, bike lanes, protected bike lanes, even something across the Florence Avenue that connects our city with Bell and then goes on to Huntington Park and even LA. There's reasons for that. So I think that this is a great opportunity for us to make those calls. I'm tracking the bill actively. I think there's 15 members right now. It's in the Assembly Transportation Committee. There's 15 members. Right now, off the top of my head, there's about maybe 3 or 4 members that are of the LA delegation. These are members that represent LA County, right? So if it's about a call that we have to make to Supervisor Janice Hahn or other folks with the LA delegation, I'm pretty sure we're not the only city. But this is something that I was following, and coincidentally, we're also talking about bike Sharrows in the next item. So this is one of those where I think we should get on top of it. So I'm interested in where this is headed, and with that, I just want to say again, thank you to staff for bringing this forward.
Any other comments?
Yes, in regards to the funding, if we don't do these sharrows right now, what happens to that funding and what else can we use that for?
Sure, Mayor Pro Tem. I'll look for our Public Works Director to describe. We've got several funding sources that we're putting together for this project.
Yes, Mr. O'Kelly, Mayor Pro Tem. These are Measure M funds that we're going to be using, and in the next item, we're also going to be talking about TDA Article 3, which are really restrictive for bikeway use. If we don't execute this project, we have other street improvements that we can use those Measure M funds towards. What exactly those would be, we just recently approved the most recent pavement management system. So there are roadways identified where we can redirect those funds.
Anything else? Okay, so I would like to make a motion to receive and file while the report while the staff tracks the bill. Can I get a second?
I'll second that.
Can I get a roll call vote?
Thank you, Mayor. Members of the Council and Successor Agency, Chavez.
Yes.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barcena.
Yes.
And Mayor Gomez.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, City Manager, will you please announce discussion item number 17?
Yes, thanks again, Mayor Gomez. This item is obviously a carry along to the last item that was presented to the council. It's a recommendation of approval of a construction contract for the citywide Sharrows restriping project. With that, I'll turn it over to our Public Works Director, Bernie Iniguez. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. O'Kelly. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council. I'll wait for the PowerPoint. For background, on March 13th, the City Council approved the plans and specs and authorized staff to solicit bids for the Sharrows restriping project. The scope of work includes the removal of the existing Sharrows and the restriping of new Sharrows citywide with new thermoplastic white paint over lime green background, and this is to increase visibility. As the City Manager stated in the previous presentation, we have a total of 243 Sharrows. I've shown this slide before, so again, to the left is the current Sharrows that we have out there in space, and on the right would be the finished product. And again, the City Manager also showed this map showing the location of the Sharrows, represented by the colored dots. On June 11th, we received two bids, one from Sterndal and the other one from Superior Pavement Markings. The table before you shows the two bid prices that were received. Staff reviewed the bids and determined that Sterndal Enterprises was the lowest responsive and responsible bidder. The tentative project schedule would be as follows. Tonight is the consideration of the award of contract. If approved, then a pre-construction meeting would be held on July 8th. Construction would then start on July 15th, and the project would be completed on August 2nd. The table towards the left illustrates the estimated project costs, so including design, project management, and construction, the total would be approximately $140,000. The funding sources are shown towards the right, so currently we have $85,000 of Measure M, and if approved, we're asking for an additional appropriation of $23,000 of Measure M and $34,790 of TDA Article 3. As was discussed in the previous presentation, SB 1216 would impact this project. The Sharrows to be installed as part of the project would not be eligible to be repainted or repaired after January 1st. If they were to be damaged, if they're removed due to an upcoming resurfacing project, or when they reach the end of their useful life. In other words, they become faded. Now, the good thing about thermoplastic is that the useful life, instead of every year, here we're looking at 6 to 8 years of life for these Sharrows. Staff's recommendation is that the City Council award a contract to Sterndal Enterprises in the amount of $111,640, appropriate the additional $23,000 of Measure M, and $34,790 of TDA Article 3 towards the project, and authorize the city manager to execute the agreement and also approve change orders in an amount not to exceed 5% of the construction contract. This concludes my staff report, and I will be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Do we have any additional questions or comments?
I know that we discussed before how Measure M was also used for the alley improvement project. Are we going to be able to get funds later on to continue that project, as we still have a lot of our alleys that significantly need repair?
Yes, every year we get a local return of Measure M funding from Metro, and that we be programmed as we bring forth future street improvements. We're going to include an alley segment with each respective street improvement project.
Anyone else? And, I just wanted to make an additional statement regarding, the importance of putting these sharrows in. It isn't just, to build better bike infrastructure here within the city. It's also to be able to build that infrastructure for what's coming. We have the Southeast Gateway rail line that it's already, in progress. There will be a station in Southgate. There will be a station in Cudahy Bell. Typically, Metro has funding for infrastructure for the, 1 mile, from the station, out from the station. We may be beyond that mile. So I don't know if any of those funds would be able to help us in making sure that we can get our residents across safely on bicycle, on scooter, to those Metro stations. So I think it's important to have it, to put it in there now. And like we said before, 6 to 8 years is a long time. There's a lot of advocacy going on. And again, I would hate for this to not happen, knowing that all of these improvements are coming. There's also going to be a Metro line extension of the Gold Line, right, from the Atlantic Metro station all the way to Whittier, with one of those stops being at the Citadel. Well, what's next to the Citadel? The casino, the Commerce Casino, right? So, we need to start thinking about different infrastructures. Not that people are going to be biking all the way from over there to over here, but we need to start looking at our different upcoming needs, right? Our changing needs for the future. And I think that this, installing the repainting the bike sharrows now, as it once was said, if you build it, they will come. I think it's a good thing to do for people who are currently using other mobility techniques. But if they're not driving, they're not on the bus. Sometimes the buses are not always on time. People like to get around at their convenience, and if we can do it safely, I think that we should go ahead and do this. So I would like to put forth a motion to let me see, award a construction contract to Sterndal Enterprises LLC in the amount of $111,000. So essentially items 1, 2, and 3 of item number 17. May I have a second?
I'll second.
And may I have a vote?
Thank you. Members of the Council of Successor Agency Chavez?
Yes.
Councilmember Sanchez?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barcena?
Yes.
And Mayor Gomez?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, everyone. And City Manager, will you please announce discussion item number 18?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. This next item is a consideration of a resolution in support of Justice for Renters Act. It's a ballot initiative that will be on the statewide ballot this November 2024. As a presentation comes up, I also wanted to make a note on this staff report and also the staff report that I presented regarding SB 1216. Just want to mention, if you look at any staff report here at the City of Bell Gardens, there's a by who wrote it, there's a from, it always says the city manager, and to is the mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and the City Council. These two items are both by Jen Pineda, our executive assistant, somewhat new to the City of Bell Gardens. So I just want to make a point. She put a lot of work into the staff reports and then also the presentations as well. So I know Hylas appreciates that help out of the city manager's office, and I definitely appreciate it as well. So just wanted to call that as another addition to the team that's putting these things together directly for the city council meetings. So with this, Justice for Renter Act, as I mentioned, it is a ballot initiative. It's qualified for the ballot this November. Basically, what it will do, if we just get right into it, the intention there is to repeal the Costa-Hawkins Rental Housing Act that was enacted in 1995, as we had a public speaker touch on this subject earlier this evening. Essentially, if it's passed, it'll allow local communities, such as the City of Bell Gardens, more flexibility in regulating rent increases on all housing and for first-time tenants renting a vacant unit. The Costa-Hawkins Rental Housing Act, it currently limits local rent control ordinances on, as an example, on certain single-family dwellings, condos, and new construction built after February of 1995. I'll go into a little more detail on how this relates to the City of Bell Gardens, but just as a mention, one of the things that does come up, these ballot initiatives have, to some degree, come to the voters recently in the state of California, and they have not passed in the last two occasions, Prop 10, Prop 21, both of them similar results, around the 40-60 split on the no side winning. As I mentioned, if approved by the voters, it allow the Bell Gardens City Council more flexibility in determining exemptions from the city's rent stabilization tenant eviction protections ordinance. So the tenant eviction protections ordinance that the City Council adopted and approved back in October of 2022. If you look at exemptions, you'll see certain exemptions that are very specific to the Costa-Hawkins Act. So it'll say any construction that's done after February of 1995. It'll also exempt single-family homes, condos, townhomes. There are some other exemptions. Also on top of Costa-Hawkins, the council at the time adopted some other exemptions for small property owners that own 3 units, if they lived in one of the units, things of that nature. So if this Justice for Renters Act initiative were approved by the voters, the City Council could go back into that ordinance and make changes to potentially, just as examples, you could pick a different date for what year of construction type housing would be exempt, or you could just eliminate it completely. You can include single-family homes or condos, townhomes that are currently excluded from the ordinance. So when we say it allows more flexibility, it would give the City Council the ability to remove some of the exemptions that are in the existing ordinance. At this time, that's very, very brief, but I think to the point. It's a ballot initiative. Staff's recommendation is either to receive and file or adopt. We have an attached resolution that supports the act. And ask, well, what would be the point of supporting an act? It's not something that we'll go talk to our legislators about necessarily, because it's not an Assembly bill or a Senate bill, but it is something that the city or other proponents of the ballot initiative could potentially use the City of Bell Gardens as one of the proponents, put them on a list with other cities, other government agencies, nonprofits, nursing associations, things of that nature, and use this resolution as example and proof that the City of Bell Gardens has indeed, by resolution, is supporting this initiative. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions on this item. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments?
I have a few questions. So what are the potential economic consequences for small landlords and property owners if this is passed? And how might these consequences impact the broader rental market?
So I start globally within the state of California would probably be a significant impact. Within the City of Bell Gardens, and I'll put the focus there based on the ordinance that the city has adopted, it does, as I mentioned, it provides the ability to remove probably 2 of the biggest exemptions that exist within the existing ordinance. I think I don't have the exact number off the top of my head, but I think currently there's probably somewhere in the 25 to 35% range of all potential units that could be rented are exempt under Costa-Hawkins, and therefore also under our rent control ordinance. So I think from an economic impact, if you were to look to the extent that any of those single-family homes are rented out currently, to the extent that any of the properties that were built after 1995 are rented out currently, the limitations there, don't exist. And so I think that could be a potential significant financial impact to the owners or landlords of those properties if they're currently able to raise rent, let's say they raise it 8 or 9%, and our ordinance is half of CPI, and maybe it would have only been 2 or 3%. So potentially significant for the property owner or the residents. I would also say, that I'm focusing a lot on the exemptions just from who's even included in rent control. And then the other component there is just from the market rate perspective, from when you have a tenant that, let's say currently you have a unit that's under our rent stabilization protections ordinance. That tenant leaves, they're moving out of state, they're going to school somewhere. Currently that unit can be brought back up to market rate. With the repeal here, that would be something that would also be on the table, that unit could maintain, could potentially be required to maintain at the level of affordability that it was with the previous tenant, even if that tenant's already gone. So I think on arguing on behalf of the property owner or the landlord could be a potentially significant financial impact as compared to the current conditions.
Additional question, considering the failure of similar initiatives, one in 2018, another in 2020, what evidence suggests that this act will be more successful this time? And what are the risks of repeating past unsuccessful attempts?
I think just to answer the first question, council member, I think the answer from staff's perspective is we don't know. That's probably the most realistic.
Quick
answer
question.
there, yeah.
I really appreciate the line of questions here. I'm wondering if there's anyone here that may be able to answer that apart from staff. Is there anyone willing to speak on the matter? Yes, sir.
Mr.
Would
Gansey?
that be okay, Madam
Is everyone
Mayor?
okay with that?
If he's the one bringing the item, he can present on it. Otherwise, it would have to be staff presenting on the item.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Is there a way to make a motion to suspend rule to allow public comment on this?
We would have to reopen public comment. If you want to make a motion, you would have to call for a motion.
I just feel like we have an expert who understands this law in the audience. I feel like it'd be appropriate to allow them to be able to articulate the responses correctly.
Okay, so I would like to make a motion to open public comment.
Second that.
Can we get a
Yes. Councilmember Chavez?
Yes.
Councilmember Sanchez?
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Barcena?
Yes.
And Mayor Gomez?
yes?
Motion passes.
All right, Mr. Zane, you have 3 minutes to present.
For the opportunity to address this issue. You should all know that prior to Costa-Hawkins, cities that had rent control laws routinely provided the same exemptions for single-family homes and the same exemptions for new construction. There was no need for state intervention. We expect that if Costa-Hawkins is repealed, cities would, once again, routinely provide those exemptions. There's no particular reason why they would do otherwise. One of the concerns that has come up with respect to single-family homes is that about 80,000 such homes were purchased out of foreclosure frankly, in these communities nearby by Blackstone and Invitation Homes and major corporate entities. Those units are also exempt from rent control, even if Blackstone wanted to evict everybody, for example, and build something. So the idea that there might be some alteration of exemptions for single-family homes to make it only for natural persons rather than big corporations, that's a discussion item for every city. Similarly, on new construction, some cities have suggested to the legislature, and the legislature included it in AB 1482, that the new construction exemption should be for 15 or 20 years. Eventually, new construction gets old and may be, therefore, appropriate to have a rent control law. But no one has ever suggested actually not exempting new construction, only after it's 15, 20 years old. But again, the measure places it back in the locals' hands. And the locals, frankly, demonstrated that they were quite smart about these things, and we didn't need Costa-Hawkins to get smart.
Mr. Zane, if I could just ask maybe on behalf of the council member, because I hate to say I don't know when I'm asked a question by the council here, but maybe if you could express to us, I think from staff's perspective, as to the likelihood of success compared to the last two propositions that were similar.
This measure has two big advantages compared to prior efforts, maybe three actually. One is that it's much simpler than the other measures. In Prop 21, for example, the proponent tried to revise each of the ingredients of Costa-Hawkins. This one simply exempts or repeals them. So that's simpler, is clear and easier for the voters to understand. Secondly, our rental crisis is much worse. There are, far more people who are facing the crisis of where do I go if I have to leave this home? How do I find a place that I can afford? And that crisis, I think, has become quite rampant throughout the state. And in addition, I think the campaign will be much better organized.
Finish your statement. You can finish your statement.
In addition, I think the level of organizing, coalition building, and shall we say lessons learned from the prior campaigns will be, I think, make this one much more effective. I've worked on campaigns in my community where the third time really was the charm, mostly because we learned how to do it better and how to explain it better and how to make the measure more understandable and acceptable.
Thank you. If there's no objection by the members, I will close public participation. So moving on with this, do we have any more comments? Okay, may I have a motion to file and receive this item or adopt the resolution supporting the ballot initiative, Justice for Renters Act?
I'll go ahead and make a motion to adopt resolution number 2024-50, supporting the Justice for Renters Act, a ballot initiative.
Do I have a second? I'll second. Will you take a roll call vote?
Member of the Council and Successor Agency Chavez?
Yes.
Councilmember Sanchez?
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Barcena?
Yes.
And Mayor Gomez?
Yes.
Motion passes.
City Manager, will you please announce discussion item number 19?
Yes, thanks again, Mayor Gomez. This item is a request, response to a request from Mayor Pro Tem Barcena at the last meeting to give an update on the Bell Gardens Connect. That's the city's app that was implemented and made available to the public back in December. Before I say anything more, I'll turn it over to the city manager, Hyla Soto. Thank you, Mayor.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. Thank you, City Manager, for the introduction. This is just a quick update on the Bell Gardens Connect. I'm going to give some quick background information about how we came to be with the Bell Gardens Connect. So back in September of last year, the City Council approved the resolution to partner with GoGov to develop the Bell Gardens Connect mobile app for our stakeholders to use. And October of last year as well, a contest was held to choose a name, and then residents were able to submit names online, and then they voted for their favorites. And then in November of 2023, the City Council selected Bell Gardens Connect as the winning name. So what does Bell Garden Connect offer? So it is free to download, both on the Apple App Store as well as the Google Play Store. In the Apple App Store is the iOS, and then Google Play Store is for Android devices. And what does Bell Gardens Connect do? It allows for stakeholders to report issues to city departments, and they're able to write a description of the issue, submit photos, and send the location, and it gets routed to internally through city staff. There is also a public-facing web portal that's available on the city website at bellgardens.org, where people are able to submit their requests there as well. And there is an administrative dashboard that's available for city staff to use. So I'm just going to go over some quick usage data for Bell Gardens Connect. So as of June 17th, there were 228 Apple iOS downloads for Bell Gardens Connect, and then there were 84 for the Android Google App Play Store downloads, for a total of 312 downloads. And since then, there have been 156 service requests submitted, and out of those 156, 51% were iPhone users, 21% were Android users, and actually 29% were people that use the portal on the website and submitted the request through the bellgardens.org website. And there are 142 unique accounts registered for Bell Gardens Connect, so about 46% of the total downloads. So just because people have downloaded, not everyone has registered through it, or about half. So this is a target download rate. GoGov, the developer of the app, suggested targeting about 3 to 5% of the population after the first year of consistent app promotion. And just quickly, just going over demographics, population-wise, as of the 2020 census, it's about 39,000 for Bell Gardens residents. Of that, there's 9,523 households in Bell Gardens. So the average household size is 4.07 people per household. Just assuming that there's one download per household, approximately 3.28% of the households have downloaded the app, if we just make that assumption. And in terms of marketing and promoting the Bell Gardens Connect, again, the banner is shown on the middle of the image, in the middle of the slide, shows the one that's shown on the city website. It's the first banner that anyone that launches bellgardens.org will see. And then there are banners at city events with the QR code for people to download. Flyers have been made available, and then it's been promoted on the city social media accounts, which include Instagram, Facebook, X, and Threads. And then, just like in this meeting and all of our commission meetings, the QR code is available at all of our commission city council meetings. So every time we go live on them, people are able to look at the screen, and there's always a little rectangle that shows the Bell Gardens Connect QR code for people to download. And ads were placed in both in the spring and summer 2024 brochures, which are mailed out to all Bell Gardens households. And just I keep mentioning the QR code, so there's an opportunity for anyone watching online, either live now or at a later point, they're able to scan it, and it's a smart QR code that will take, if you just use your phone, it will launch, take you to appropriate app store, so whether it's the Apple one or the Google one, and you're able to download Bell Gardens Connect, or just search Bell Gardens Connect. And at this time, staff is available to answer any questions. And then, thank you.
And highlight, so just also to add some kind of from the staff perspective, what the goals were in putting this app out there. It was somewhat difficult to get some of this data from other cities, but there's one city in particular. I won't say the name of the city. It's a Southeast LA city, slightly larger than the city of Bell Gardens. Also uses GoGov, and at the 3-year mark, they were in the 300 and some download range, which, you know, it seemed like that was not very many for 3 years. I think also, especially kind of following up the success I think we've had on the social media accounts, where, you know, we're well up over 7,000. You know, so we had set a goal where, well, if this city's after 3 years in the 300 download range, you know, hopefully we're able to beat that. I asked how this maybe every 2 months or so, what are we looking like? And it looked like we were going to get to that range probably in the first 6 or 7 months. So we're 6 months in. I think we still have more work to do, but as Hylas mentioned, we've had them in the brochures for the first time just back in spring and summer. So I think we got some downloads off of that as well for people that otherwise aren't interacting with the city. But just from the measurement perspective to see where we were, we knew there was this goal of at least in the 300 range based on what this other municipality had done. And I think as we move forward, looking out long term, and this may be 2 to 4 years out, municipalities usually move a little bit slower from the perspective of offering their services through many different means. So whereas the city of Bell Garden still encourages people to walk in, call, mail something in if necessary. If you were to compare this to a commercial enterprise, don't even bother going to Disneyland without having the app. You're not going to even have a reservation. You're not going to get in. The audience is just so captive that they can drive the business in that way. Municipality, generally speaking, wants to be more considerate, to the residents, that still may not be using cell phones or may not be using apps regularly. So those are things that we've kind of looked at over maybe in the 2 to 5 year range, where potentially to really get the use out of the app would maybe need to require that services are requested through the app or through the website that links through the app. But at this time, we're not doing that. With that, I'll stop talking and seek any questions, and staff's prepared to answer. Thank you, Council. Thank you, Hylas.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions or comments?
Yes, can I please see the slide where we show the percentages and the numbers? I just want to refer back to some of the figures there. So it's been 6 months and we have about 300, I think that was the number, right? Do you guys have a goal in terms of like what you want to see in the next 6 months? I personally would like to see more. I know that 3.5 was what the company said was likely the number to be. Was that correct? I think the next slide shows a 3
to 5%.
3 to 5%. So what would we like that number to be, right? The target download rate, that was set by GOV, right? Is there a way that we can sort of set our own goal and maybe find a path towards that? Because I feel like we can do a little bit better. I mean, not to say that I don't appreciate all the work that's been done, but I do see a lot of opportunity at events, and even, for example, the art and yard sale. I see staff there in the little easy ups and at the table, and I see some flyers on the table. But I kind of wish we had staff trained to show our residents how to download the app and get the app. I personally help several people just at the art and yard sale, because they come by and they complain about, trash, a tree, and I've actually helped them download the app and submit a service request. But it's really easy to do that, and I'm sure that some of our recreation staff can be trained in relatively short period of time, maybe even 1 day or in half an hour even. So I would like to see an effort towards a specific number, something that staff feels comfortable with, so that we can speed up the process of adoption. And also, we have the summer concerts coming up. I'd love to see, I know staff is there with all the information from our services, but I feel like the app is so important that I like to make it like central to our recreation and community services programs. Is there anything that we can do? I mean, I'd love to bring this back, not to a meeting, but maybe in the ad hoc or for a brainstorming session. I just want to see more adoption, because I think this is just such a great opportunity for people to have their services met in a more convenient way, and also for staff to to provide services in a more streamlined manner. Because I think we all agree when you get a picture and a geotag is better than getting on the phone and like calls back and forth. So anyway.
So Mayor Pro Tem, I think, if we shoot on the, our goal was not to meet what the other city was. Admittedly, like I said, I was surprised that the number was pretty low, I thought, for a 3-year period of time. So I think as we've kind of seen, what our numbers are, we've been pretty happy, at least for the first 6-month perspective. But I think when we see the targeting of 3 to 5%, if we were to shoot on the high end of that, 5% is about it's just under 2,000, but rounded up, it would be 2,000 downloads. I think I would expect we probably don't get there it might take, 4 or 5 years, similar with social media, but, we stay grinding with it. But I think the first step that we can do is kind of go back to staff, because we had to focus on the app with staff for a while. They were pushing it, and then we shifted the focus to the customer service survey, where we were pushing that QR code. And I think that, it gets a little bit confusing, and then people go, okay, we're done with selling the QR codes. But really, it's something we just have to, I think, stay on, as opposed to treating it like it's a cyclical thing that just happens sometimes. So I think, our department head meeting on Wednesday, we can talk about what I'm kind of thinking, just with what you're talking about, is a training probably for all staff as far as the download of it, and a push to encourage residents that they come into contact with, whether that be out at the park, or whether it just be in the parking lot out here, or out on the street, or at one of the bus stops. Really encouraging pushing the app out there, from more of a sales perspective, with where you don't just say, hey, here's a QR code. Here's a QR code. If you'll scan it, I can help you with it. I think we can be more aggressive with it. And obviously, it's not to drive profits or anything. It's just to give people another way to help us. So I think we can be comfortable in doing that, even for people that don't normally like to sell things. And then I think if we report back, if it's okay, maybe the first meeting of August, since we've got a bunch of events coming up, let's maybe challenge ourselves to see what we can do in a 6-week period of time, to see what kind of gains we can get with a hard push.
Yeah, and I'll shoot over any suggestions. You know how I am, right? I'm always trying to give my 50 cents. But no, honestly, I do feel like this is such a great thing that we were able to do here in the city. And I'm only bringing it up and kind of pushing a little bit, because I do feel like everyone's job is just going to be easier anyway, right? If we get more people using the app, including the council's jobs, which, who doesn't like to have an easier job? But yeah, thank you for all that you're doing. I do appreciate it. And the app works great. People, the ones that I've helped out, they've been very happy. And whatever issue they've had has been resolved. So it is working, and I just hope to see it grow more. Thank you.
No, and I think that's great. You were saying that you help people at the art and yard sale, maybe having staff continue to do that, especially Thursday when we have our movie nights and our concerts. That's when we generally get a lot of our community coming out. And so being able to have that QR code readily available, having staff, us readily available to help the residents, install, download the app, I think that would be great.
Yeah, briefly, I love the discussion we're having as well in regards to the app. I'm also interested in ways that maybe we could increase that downloadership. I think that's the proper term to use. Download rate, I should say. And just from the top of my head, I'm thinking, maybe local. Obviously, we talked about the local events, workshops, having our staff trained. Another one that I'm thinking is maybe perhaps, aside from us as council members, maybe identifying those key figures in our community that are able to send the message to the rest of the members and that are residents, right? So I'm thinking of like maybe local church groups, right? The folks that are there. I'm talking about in online folks that have an online presence. I see this all the time with local businesses. They partner up with like an influencer, and then the influencer sort of takes over the page, and they kind of show their day-to-day kind of thing. Right now, I don't know if we have that caliber per se. I don't know if any of us would share like, hey, download this app or follow my day. I don't know if my life is that interesting for sure. But just something. I'm trying to think. I know just in our own spaces, in our own Facebook and Instagrams, right? I know we have followers, so sharing it through there. On Facebook, Bell Gardens Uncensored is another great group that I know a lot of residents are there. So just tapping in there and the folks that run that page, maybe making contact officially on behalf of the city, saying, hey, we understand that you hold a big presence in our community. Is there a way that you can publicize and share this, this app, and have residents download the app? I don't know. I'm just brainstorming some sort of formal way that we can do that. Another thing, and these are a little bit more maybe sophisticated, but maybe targeting ads across Bell Gardens. And I've seen this in like other places where we've had actually an ad running right now, and it's through the Economic Connectivity Program, I think, or it was a grant ECP, and it was about internet connection. And I've seen it sometimes. I think there's another ad running right now in regards to the soil cleanup for the Shoal site, and it's about DTSC, and I see it consistently pop up through my as I'm just scrolling through social media. So maybe doing something where as folks are scrolling through Instagram or TikTok or Facebook, if we have an ad that's showing there and it says sponsored by City of Bell Gardens, people maybe are inclined to download it. Now, I don't know what are the feasibilities of it. I know sometimes for grants, that's some sort of way that we can do public exposure. That's one of the sophisticated ones. Another one is maybe contacting Google, and every time someone looks up Bell Gardens, the first thing that pops up, it's a sponsored link that takes them automatically to download the app, right? And sometimes it happens where I'll be on my phone, and then it automatically sends me to the App Store to download the app, right? So I feel that it's not that folks aren't downloading it. I just feel like a lot of times they just don't know about it yet. Right, and that's just been my experience. I'll tell folks, hey, download it, or they're like, wait, I didn't even know that this existed, or what is it called? So just for those 4 ideas. So local events, workshops, training staff as well, leveraging the community members, so maybe engaging with those folks that already have a presence in the community, geo-targeting ads for the City of Bell Gardens. Ads are not that expensive for a small city like ours. And then finally, doing maybe contacting Google to see if maybe our city could be the app could be the first thing that pops up every time someone Googles Bell Gardens and stuff. And I know folks are sophisticated enough to put something on Facebook, and they'll say, hey, I need this cleaned up and stuff, especially all the time with street sweeping or stuff. So I mean, I'm pretty sure they can figure this out too. So that's my take. Thanks.
And in terms of my comments, so when we're talking about the download rate, right, the 3 to 5% that we're expecting, and we're using another municipality's experience with this, I just want to make sure that we're comparing municipalities that are like apples to apples, right, not apples to oranges, and also in terms of the demographic that we have, right? I've said it from the beginning. I know the app is in English only, correct? Yeah. So I think that's something that we can't leave behind, that detail, that it is English only, given that our residents, many of them do speak Spanish and are primarily only Spanish speaking. A way that they could get services from the city is if they could do it through the app as well, but if it was in Spanish. So I think that's something that we can't discount. Let's make sure that I don't want to wait 3 years to see if we can get an app translated, right, for the residents. I don't think it's fair to our residents who are more comfortable. A lot of folks, they speak English out of necessity, and they learn it as best as they can, but a lot of times navigating navigating, your configuration. In English, we say settings. In Spanish, it's configuraciones, right? So having that experience in Spanish online, I think is a lot more comfortable for a lot of people, particularly residents of Bell Gardens. So I don't want to let go of that. I'm gonna keep gnawing on that bone so we can get that in Spanish at some point. But when we are comparing, what our success rate should be, what our download rate should be, I think that it's always good to keep in mind what our challenges are as well. When we compare ourselves to another city, to another municipality, what their experience is, we need to make sure that we're comparing apples to apples and saying, okay, this is what we can expect, based on what they had, because they also have a similar demographic, right? So that's all I have.
Madam Mayor, sorry.
Yes.
Just have something to say in regards to the translation part of it. I mean, I agree with you. I don't think we should forget about that, the fact that it's only in English. But I also think that the app is so efficient and it's so good and simple. But Highlights, maybe you're able to give me some feedback on this. Wouldn't we be able to just kind of put like, submit a request, but put the translation right next to it without having a special mechanism? Maybe that's something that we can, I'd like to propose to have a ad hoc meeting just so that we can explore that and, based on the availability of my colleague, I know that you're super busy, but I'm open to just sitting down and kind of like going through it and seeing if maybe there are ways to get around that without having to pay for an additional, bell or whistle. We might be able to get some bilingual functionality in there, but so if we can set up a meeting at one point for the ad hoc, that'd be great. Thank you.
Definitely, I'm on board. Thank you for that.
So Mayor, if I can just emphasize, I guess at least from staff perspective, I just want to state stats here that are factual. And we'll continue to grow this and do more with it. So we are comparing an apples to apples city where the other city is probably 20 or 30% larger than us in Southeast LA, very nearby us, and we've in 6 months met or exceeded what they've done in 3 years. I'm not saying they're not doing it. They might be working really hard. If they are working really hard, then I think thanks to staff, it's actually very successful relative to the competitors that are out there. But with that being said, I think if GoGov alone is giving us a 3 to 5% target, we're not at that 3 to 5% target. And I think all of the things that are being brought up here are valid and will help us get these numbers up as well.
Just one more thing, and this has just been my experience using the app, and most of these requests have been towards Bernie. My apologies on that, but I send maybe a couple, 3, 4 of them sometimes. I'll do my nightly drives or my morning drives as I'm headed to work, and they're in regards to like a lot of the bulky items. What I would say is when I submit the request, it'll tell me my receipt number, but the issue that I'm finding is, if I submit it earlier on the day, it'll be cleaned up usually by the end of the day or in the middle of the day. What I would ask is we get notified as soon as it's complete, because I don't know, it doesn't send me a notification back or, and I'm assuming, obviously, I'm glad that the thing got done, that it got cleaned up, but my only thing would be the response, the communication two-way, because after I submitted it, I got a receipt number and that's it. But I would ask that if maybe we would do a follow-up. I think that'd be great. Or, in that follow-up, whether it be like an email or maybe a pop-up and the notification, if it'll say like, hey, we might even have an opportunity to get some feedback at that point where it's like, rate the app 1 through 5 or something, and I see this all the time. Would you like to provide feedback or something? Just an idea, but just a response back, just to make sure that we know that whatever we requested, it got done. Thanks.
Thank you for that. And I don't know if you guys are having trouble with it, but I know that when I use the app, if I take a picture of something as it's happening and then I want to upload it to the app, for some reason it won't take the picture. It won't upload the picture. I have to actually use the camera feature in the app to take the picture in the moment while I'm using the app. So like if I have it stored in my gallery on my phone, it won't upload. But if I'm using the camera feature in the app, then it will work. I'm on Android. So
I'm on Android and I don't have that issue, but
that's happening? Okay.
I don't have that issue, but that's interesting to know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's happened, so I don't know.
We can look into it. See, I think I've uploaded pictures that were in my gallery, but I can't recall. But we can find out there.
Yeah, same here. That's been my experience. But mine hasn't been in that sense, but from my understanding, I've had issues where now in the iOS accessibility, it'll say like, do you want it to access your full library or do you want it to access selected pictures? So if I just wanted to access the most recent picture, I have to go in, manage which pictures it has to access, and then I can submit it as like the one that I wanted, right? And luckily it does this ahead of time, but there's some folks that have their devices all set up so it doesn't even track there where they are. But luckily when I take the picture, it'll automatically get the location from where that picture is. Or I'll find myself as I'm driving, I'll pull over, take the picture of whatever I got, and then if I'm in a rush, I'll head out, and then later when I get to work or whatever, I'll then upload the picture it looks like I'm uploading it, you know, it'll be like in the daytime, but I'm uploading in the nighttime but the picture will say like at what time and where it was. But that's just been my experience with that.
Okay, so, well, thank you, everyone. Let's see, may I have a motion to receive and file the report?
Move.
Second.
May we have a roll call vote?
Yes, thank you. Councilmember Chavez?
Aye.
Councilmember Sanchez?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barcena?
Yes.
And Mayor Gomez?
Yes,
Motion passes.
thank you. We will now move to member comments. Councilmember Chavez?
Briefly, just want to say thank you again to all of our staff. Really appreciate all the work that you do. Thank you to our directors. You know, happy Juneteenth again to everybody, and at the same time, you know, happy to see that this July was declared as Parks Makes Life Better Month again. Thank you again for all your work you do. Appreciate it.
Just thank you to staff once again for everything that you guys do, and just a suggestion to my colleagues that when resolutions are being set forth amongst us, just be well prepared so that we're all knowledgeable of what it is that we're voting on or what we're saying that the city of Bell Gardens is signing their name to, because I'm very hesitant when there's not enough information and we're voting constantly on certain things where we're tagging the city's name, and I'm not okay with that. So I just want to put that out there. Thank you.
Well, I have questions about that because I'm not exactly sure what you're referring to, but nevertheless, we can connect after the meeting. But thank you to staff for all the work that you do. I've also been able to interact with the police service system, and I think it's great. I think it does notify you when things are fixed, when something has been looked into. So that just wanted to say that whatever system you guys are running over there at the police department, like it's working really well. Yeah, when people call, they get notified. So good job with that. Yeah, I lost my train of thought. So just remember that we have the event that the city manager mentioned at the skate park this Friday. We're very excited. Invite everyone. It's really gonna be an eclectic mix of music, and I don't think I've ever seen an event like that, either here or any other city. And I'm not trying to hype it up, so stop by. Hopefully we'll see you there, and thanks for all that you do, and that's all.
I do want to thank staff, especially our rec staff, for a first successful summer night concert. The videos were great. I saw people posting on social media about it and tagging the city on it, so it looked like a lot of fun. I'm glad that it went really well, and I'm looking forward to more summer events. It's great. The heat finally got us, so let's get out and enjoy it. Thank you so much, and congratulations to all of our staff. We had the graduation recognition for all of our staff that have graduated from high school, from college. It was so great to see them, you know, share that milestone with us. So thank you for all that you do. And at this time, if there's no objection by the members, I will now adjourn the City Council Successor Agency Joint Meeting at 8:04. Thank you.